6:04, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane off and running, ready to start your week off on the right foot. We have got you covered. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing, starting off at 67 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Man, you heard that forecast. Going to get nasty later on, if not tomorrow. But we'll keep an eye on it as the morning wears on. We got a lot of ground to cover today. Most of it going to be inside the special session on tax reform. But we've got everything else that's going on as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Top stories and trending. Let's go.
Number 5.
Today is the deadline for those looking to apply for FEMA Individual Assistance Program, for the FEMA Individual Assistance Program in a number of parishes around the state. Those parishes would be Ascension, Lafourche, Jefferson, St. Charles, St. James, St. John the Baptist, St. Mary, and Terrebonne parishes. For if you want to give FEMA a call, their phone number is 800-621-3362. But if you Google up FEMA and Francine Assistance, that'll take you where you need to go as well.
Number 4.
2 police cameras are going to be installed to surveil Baton Rouge's interstates. They're donated by the nonprofit Baton Rouge Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Foundation. 8 people have been killed in the East Baton Rouge Parish in 2024 in drive-by shootings. More have been injured. The cameras are going to be going up in the northern parts of the parish, but the exact locations will not be released, according to Clay Young, chairman of the Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Foundation. The final placement of the cameras will be left to the relevant agency, either the BRPD or East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, based on, of course, jurisdiction within that area.
Number 3.
Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome has been elected the National League of Cities' next president. She will serve a 1-year term beginning this week at the NLC's summit in Tampa, Florida. The NLC is a nonprofit advocacy organization focused on representing the interests of American cities, towns, and villages.
Number 2.
East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office is investigating an overnight shooting that left 1 man dead at an apartment complex on Nicholson Drive just east of Gardere. This was on Saturday. Deputies were called to The Meadows at Nicholson and arrived around 8 p.m. where they found 27-year-old Jonathan James dead in the hallway. No more information was given about the suspect nor the motive.
Number 1.
Sarah's not going to be a problem, at least not for us, as it is now a post-tropical storm. The remnants of Sarah are floating around just off the coast of in the Bay of Campeche, just off the coast of Mexico. It's still got maximum sustained winds of 30 miles per hour. Not expected to regain strength now that it's back over water, but it is expected to give us some showers towards the back end of this week. What's trending, Joe?
Well, Denzel Washington has spoken out against American politics, warning people that they are being manipulated by both sides of the political spectrum.
Love me some Denzel, man. And I'm going to tell you why. I don't think issue by issue I agree with Denzel very often.
Yeah.
But Denzel won me over a while ago, like back in the early 2000s, when George W. Bush was president.
Okay, yeah.
And this was like after all the fever pitch of getting into the Iraq War was over with, and Bush was being criticized for the Iraq War and the war in Afghanistan. And Denzel came out saying something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing because this is probably a 20-year-old quote by now, but said something to the effect of, he's just a man. He's just a man trying to do his best right there. You could disagree with him from day to day, but like, let's not vilify the man for putting himself out there. And it was a very human moment. It was a recognition that it was humans talking about humans. And I just did that. Stuff like that wins me over big time. I don't have to agree with you,
right?
But just recognize that we're both people in this game.
Yeah, it's true, man. It's true. And I think if more people would realize that, then the world would be a lot better place.
The tone of conversation, right?
I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Wow. New Yorkers are showing up in droves to support Halterman's Bakery in Staten Island after Whoopi Goldberg claimed they refused her service because of her political beliefs.
Okay.
Speaking of.
So, yeah. The backstory here is they had a boiler that was out or something to that effect, which I don't know the bakery's whole story. They had a boiler that was out that would basically shut down production, and when they told Whoopi that, she was like, no, this was, you're just denying me.
She took it personally,
Yeah.
right? Like, what do you mean you can't serve
now
me?
you got like all these political officials in and around Staten Island, throughout New York City, actually, that are coming out saying, no, these are the best people around. You done picked the wrong fight, Whoopi.
Yeah.
And you're claiming this is like based off of politics. You're, oh man, this is a Jussie Smollett 2.0 kind of thing.
Oh, man. And in terms of picking the wrong fight, from the buffering to the lack of action, the Tyson-Paul fight was a major dud.
You watch it?
Yes, I did.
Yep.
In real time. The first punch that Jake Paul threw, my TV buffered.
Yeah.
I took a picture of it and I sent it to my brother like, this is what I'm dealing with right now. And he's
Yeah.
like, dude, you're lucky. Like, I got nothing. I'm like,
I got nothing
oh,
until
man.
4 rounds in. So here's the thing.
Oh, man.
Here's the thing. Thank God for TikTok.
Yeah.
I was able to watch the fight on my phone because of people live streaming the fight via the Evil China app. So I'm not privy to that without it. Now, by the 4th round, my TV caught up to the fight back in. So rounds 1 through 4, I'm watching on TikTok. And I went ahead and watched rounds 5 through 8 on TikTok as well, and then rewatched it on the big, like on my TV screen when it was nice and big. And I really had the graphics of Minecraft. It was just bad across the board. And yes, I subjected myself to that idiocy twice. I got a full fight breakdown if we want to get into it, but
man, I
think Mike Tyson did himself wrong by not going 3-minute rounds. I'm probably the only one that's going to say that, though. Everyone else is going to say he's old and winded and tired, and 3-minute rounds would have forced him out sooner. I think 3-minute rounds would have caused more desperation, and Tyson would have actually gotten aggressive. Every single round in Tyson's corner, or at least every round that they had a mic in Tyson's corner, you could hear his trainer saying, you've got to get more aggressive.
Yeah.
You've got to get more aggressive. He just danced around just to prove he could stay out there. I do want to know what happened to the Mike Tyson in the training videos. Because
that's my point.
Yeah.
Because that's where we're going with, oh, well, he's older. No. These training videos leading up to this fight, that's a whole different fighter.
Yes.
Like,
once he was in the ring, he looked like an old man.
Yeah.
The feet were flat on the ground. The movement was minimal at best.
Brace.
Now, Jake Paul, who after the fight was saying, oh, I took it easy on him, which that's bogus.
Yeah.
What Paul was doing the whole time was making sure he was taking advantage of his reach. And he actually got called out for it by the ref in the 7th round. The ref said, stop measuring. Like, okay, so there's that. Paul was making sure he's taking advantage of his reach. Paul was going to win this fight if all he had to do was keep him at arm's length, which he literally did.
Yep.
Number 2, Tyson refused to get aggressive. Number 3, because he landed a punch early.
Oh, yeah.
Tyson landed 1 or 2 early that looked like they shook Paul pretty good. Yeah. And if he capitalized on that, if he continued on that, but he didn't, he went coiled back in, waiting for Paul to make a mistake. So if you're waiting for the other guy to make a mistake, the other guy has the reach on you and can land more jabs, you're going to lose that fight.
Yep.
You're going to lose that fight. And I firmly believe that 3-minute rounds instead of 2-minute rounds would have led to more mistakes. Mistakes would have been to the benefit of Mike Tyson. That being said, number 1, Netflix, awful job by Netflix. Yeah. The only thing worse than the buffering was the call of the bout itself.
Yeah.
The call of the bout was terrible. Like,
it was a hard watch.
You had Rosie Perez?
Yeah.
Rosie Perez? Everything about that was horrible. Oh, and by the way, shout out to all the geniuses after the fact that said, of course this was going to be the money grab. Who's surprised by... Yeah, where were you before the fight posting that? I didn't see anybody posting up ahead of time saying, this is going to be a cash grab. It's going to be awful. No. Nobody said that going in, and a ton of people said it coming out with the I told you so stuff. You shove your I told you so's. We're long. It's 6:13 at Talk 107.3 FM. All right, Saints win. Tigers. Southern wins. They're looking great. We'll talk about it all over the next 2 segments here on Talk 107.3.
Yeah, that was tough.
My nose is itching this morning. It's like the tip of my nose. It's just itchy. It's not going away. Oh. Troy says, will LSU's final 2 games be broadcast on SEC Network Plus? It's rough going, man. Rough going. Good morning, Matt. Good morning, Renee. How about that Darren Rizzi, y'all? Wow, what a difference a little injection of energy can make for the New Orleans Saints. Saints go out and beat up on the Cleveland, but Cleveland's not world beaters over there to be sure. But the Saints picking up any kind of W they can and grabbing their last 2 since the firing of Dennis Allen. Man, you don't want to get ahead of yourself. They beat the Falcons at home, which that's your rival. You're supposed to, right? You could forget about everything else. Throw the record books out. Yes, that's supposed to happen. Then you come back and beat the Browns, who were they were 2-7 going in that game. Come out 2-8. Jameis Winston. Oh man, I'm gonna forever love that guy. I just such a short stint in New Orleans, and it could have been so much more than it was had he not gotten hurt. But how about Winston's day yesterday? 30 of 46 for 395 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that was it. That was everything that Cleveland did yesterday as the Saints win 35-14. Taysom Hill was absolutely unstoppable. After the game, Rizzi talks about his team playing a complete game.
We talked about 3 things this week, just keeping the focus on the preparation. We talked about winning the line of scrimmage, and we talked about finishing. Those are the themes as a team this week. And I thought we did all 3 of those things. And so I thought that was a check mark for all 3 things.
Taysom Hill, I mean, what a ridiculous game he had. This is 230 all-purpose yards, 138 rushing, 50 receiving, 18 passing. He did throw an INT, and he had 42 kick return yards as well. Taysom Hill found the end zone 3 times. First time in 2 years that Hill scored 3 touchdowns in one game, tying a career high. Also, this was shout out to our news partners at Louisiana Radio Network for this. The first time since Ed Podolak of the Kansas City Chiefs back in 1971 that a player had 3 rushing touchdowns, 50 yards receiving, and at least 1 passing completion. Hill said he's honored to be mentioned in such elite company.
I know that the guys that played this game before us did a lot for us that are now playing this. So to be talked about with those guys, means a lot to me.
So things get better for the Saints because now they have a bye, and they've been on the mend a good bit. So a good bit of rest is very much needed as well. Next game for New Orleans will be Sunday, December 1st against the Rams. That will be at the Superdome. 3:05 kickoff there. It'll be on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. It's 6:20. Here's the Fox Business Report.
guests in the 6 o'clock hour, huh?
Do what?
Two guests in the 6 o'clock hour, huh?
Yeah.
That's not pre-recorded?
No, neither one of them. And I don't know about Medical Monday. I might need you to dig up the one from 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Because I don't have it down, and I missed out on it altogether. So. We're looking at a normal volume on I-12 westbound coming in from Livingston Parish. It's like I said, normal volume. If that's your normal commute, you know what I'm talking about. You're not really slowing down or anything. You just got a bunch of neighbors to wave at as you drive in. Over on I-10 westbound coming in from Ascension Parish, things are looking good. 10 eastbound coming across the river from West Baton Rouge, we're looking good. Now up on I-110, I'm showing an accident. 110 southbound at Airline. I'm sorry, not an accident. Traffic congestion and blockage. However, when I look at it on the map here, it's not showing up at all on the map by Capital Access, but it is on the incident report, so that's why I share it with you. Over on your surface streets, there are 3 accidents to look out for right now. You got, 2 accidents to look out for right now. Both of them are on Airline Highway. One is Airline at Marydale. The other is Airline at Scenic. The one Airline at Marydale is about 40 minutes old by now, so it might be in the clearing stages, if not gone, but it was reported with injury. The one Airline at Scenic is only about 10 minutes old, so you will be on the lookout for that. Oh, just popping up. BRPD letting us know that I-10 eastbound, there's an accident near the Acadian Thruway exit. It is 10 eastbound, so it's opposite of where traffic would be headed at this part of the morning. But you do want to be on the lookout for that as it just showing up. Traffic crash that's in the roadway. That's your look at traffic from the Shaw Bills Tire Traffic Center. .625, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Anybody stay up to watch the exciting conclusion to Cincinnati versus Los Angeles last night? Oh, man, what a heartbreaker. Chargers beating the Bengals 34-27. Chargers were out in front, in control almost all the game. But, man, Burrow to Chase, turned it on, caught things back up. They were tied at 27 apiece with about a minute to go in the game before Justin Herbert. J.K. Dobbins was the one that put the final touchdown in the end zone. 34-27, Chargers win. That brings us around to tonight, Monday Night Football. Your home for Monday Night Football is right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Going to be Texans at the Cowboys. 7:15 or 7 o'clock is when we'll pick up coverage. Texans and Cowboys tonight on Talk 107.3. Your home for Monday and Thursday Night Football is right here on Talk 107.3. So it's rough for LSU right now. You lose to Florida 27-16, and it really it was this weird. It was one of the weirder games that I've ever sat through, in that you dominated time of possession. You had Garrett Nussmeier throw 47 passes but didn't have an interception at all. You had a run game, and yet you lose by 2 scores. It was the darndest thing. I mean, every statistical category in the box score, just about every statistical category in the box score, LSU was out in front on. But they only punched the ball in the end zone once and gave up big plays on defense. Here's Coach Brian Kelly.
We are in the situation that we're in because we're largely not effective enough in those 2 areas. Negative plays on offense and not finishing off drives, and then defensively giving up the explosive plays.
Why? Wasn't the talk 3 weeks ago putting people in the right position, putting them in positions to be success? So you can forget about the SEC championship game. Obviously, you can forget about the 12-team playoff. Those no longer on the table. 10-win season no longer on the table. 2 regular seasons to go. 2 regular season games to go. That'll start this Saturday against Vanderbilt, who's playing the best Vanderbilt season that Vanderbilt's had in a long time. Kelly says, you got to lean on pride for your motivator now.
There's a rough spot here that we have to fight through, and we got to do it together. So if you're not a thumb pointer, if you're not somebody that's saying, I'm going to work and continue to work to be better, then we don't have a place for you in the last couple of weeks. But if you want to fight and you want to keep working to get better, then we're going to be alongside of you.
Kickoff against Vandy will be 6:45 on TV on the SEC Network. Right here, you'll find it down the hall on Eagle 98.1. 6:45 kickoff means 4:30 for the network pregame, which means, I believe, 1:30 for Eagle 98.1's game day. So after Vandy, we're going to play Oklahoma on November 30th to round out the regular season. And then we'll see what's what from there. Vandy's a good team and has a solid running quarterback. Diego Pavia has been phenomenal this year. So this is not your normal, oh, look, it's Vandy, it's a win. That's not it. This Vandy team beat Alabama. This is a good ball club coming into Tiger Stadium this week. And I can't imagine what the atmosphere is going to be like at Tiger Stadium coming off of 3 straight losses and hunting season. Like between those 2 things, 3 straight losses and it's hunting season, my guess is it will not be a sold-out crowd in Tiger Stadium this week, or at least not capacity attendance inside Tiger Stadium this weekend. Meanwhile, across town on Saturday, how about the Southern Jaguars taking care of business, posting up a 31-9 win over Arkansas Pine Bluff. Southern's now 7-4 on the season, 6-1 in conference play. Southern is going on to the SWAC championship. So they're doing business, y'all. How about this for a balanced running attack? None of these numbers are going to really jump off the page at you, but how about this for a balanced running attack for Southern? C.J. Russell, 12 carries, 66 yards. Kendrick Grimes, 13 for 65. And Kobe Dillon, 14 for 62. Yeah, I know that doesn't sound ginormous, nobody with a 100-yard game there, but between those 3 guys posting up 190 yards rushing, and Jalen Woods, the quarterback, had 4 carries for 23. So 216 total on the night. Not bad work by the Southern Jaguars, who continue to show success on this season. All right, how long we got? We had 10 seconds. All right, you know what? I said Monday Night Football was right here. I was wrong, because LSU women's basketball is right here tonight. They've got Troy, 7 p.m. tip-off. You'll hear that tonight instead of Texas versus Dallas. Renee should be calling us. Don't know if I said good morning to my wife yet. I think I did, but I'm not sure. So good morning, Christy. Welcome in, boo. Thing is, I don't know what it sounds like elsewhere. I don't know how the copy sounds when they do it in New Orleans or Shreveport or whatever. Is the mindset we don't need to credit Talk 107.3 because we're on Talk 107.3, or are they just not crediting me at all?
Yeah.
I don't, and I do my best to credit them for every story I use from them, which is one a day.
You do, yeah.
Two a day.
Yeah, they can at least just shout out the source, you know. So and so is on whatever. Mornings with Ryan Holiday or on Talk 107.3, whatever.
All right. I've got this as a one-off for later on. I don't know if we're going to get to it or not. But that story from Top Stories about Mayor Broom being elected as the next president of the League of Cities.
Yeah.
What happens if she loses her election for mayor, her re-election for mayor? Like, does the president of the National League of Cities, which is a collection of mayors, does the president need to be a mayor? Awkward.
A little bit. A little bit. So still no call, but speak about it.
Time to get a look at your forecast. Here's WBRZ meteorologist Emma Kate Cowan. 638 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. All right, we're going to dive back into the special session on tax reform with our next guest, Renee Amar with the Louisiana Motor Transport Association. But before we do, I've got to pivot on this one. Renee, good morning. First of all, good morning. Welcome aboard. Thank you for hopping on so early.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks so much for having me. You have a full slate today, buddy.
Oh, no, I know. It's start to finish,
Fact.
to be sure. So thank you for being the leadoff batter this morning. Absolutely. Before we get into tax reform, I got to ask you, as the head of the Louisiana Motor Transport Association, we're now our third special session in, and we still don't have a special session on insurance. From y'all's perspective, that's got to sting.
Oh, it hurts tremendously. And it doesn't just hurt because we're in our third special session and we haven't dealt with insurance yet. But obviously, it's still hurting truckers in the state of Louisiana. When you compare what our insurance rates are, we are the highest in the nation for both car and truck. But when you especially compare us to our neighboring states, it's just unreal that we have not dealt with this issue yet.
And we took a stab at it this year to say, let's just handle it in the regular session. Clearly, the regular session isn't going to get it done. This needs attention to detail, and this needs set up for follow through.
And I think part of the concern going into the fiscal session, as you know, is that they're limited to the number of bills that they can file individually.
Yep.
And so especially after what we're doing now, goodness knows what they're going to feel like they need to go back and fix in the fiscal session. So we definitely do need a special session just to deal with insurance. And look, I don't think we're alone. I don't know about you, but I hear it on a daily basis from just regular friends that have cars. When you get to the point where you have a teenager that you have to insure, my son, who's 26 now, was $450 a month, and I bought him a cash truck that was worth $3,000.
Oh, gosh.
And so, it was just, my daughter, I think, was $375 a month when I insured her. And so parents having to insure, obviously they had to go to work and get them a little job when they were in high school because that's just an unreal amount. For truckers, if you were spending $23,000 a year to insure your truck, you can take that same exact truck in the state of Texas or in Alabama. It's $14,000, but are you ready? In the state of Mississippi, that policy would be $4,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it is no
doing?
surprise to me as to why my truckers are moving out of state. They have, and they still are.
I mean, even if all your business is in Louisiana, it makes sense to set up shop across state lines and just travel back here.
Yeah, absolutely. If they can get away with it. I mean, part of that, I don't mean illegally, but part of that is that insurance companies like to calculate your miles within the state.
Right.
And so if you're still going to primarily do business in the state of Louisiana, you're still going to have a problem. You really kind of need to shift your business to doing a little bit more in those other states. And is that really the policy that we want to be pursuing in the state of Louisiana? Is that I have to tell truckers, if you want to feed your family and all the people that you employ, you need to figure out how to set up shop in another state? Yeah. I think we want to be, supposed to be keeping our people here, right?
That's the aim. And tax reform is part of that. I mean, I'm not trying to discount that. In fact, State Representative Julie Emerson said on this show last week, she said, I was asking her about the film tax credit. She said, we're trying to fix things for all industries, not just one. So individual industries might see a few things they don't like along the way. So trucking being one trucking spanning many industries across the board. Let's pivot over there right now. How are things looking from Louisiana Motor Transport Association's view when it comes to the fixes that are being proposed and potentially made on tax reform?
So at this point, we're in much better shape than when we started. They initially had a tax on transportation, and I'm not sure if people are aware, but truckers just in the state of Louisiana move about $480 billion worth of freight. And so that is a huge number that if we didn't get that definition right as far as trucking is concerned, you could put a 10% tax on that and think that you're going to fund the entire budget for the state of Louisiana. Mm-hmm. But we all know what people do when we have heavy burdens on our products. We end up, shifting to other places. We got that language fixed. The biggest thing that we have left, Brian, is dealing with this inventory tax issue.
Yep.
And largely that is a problem for my truck dealers. Those people are confined as to the territories where they have to be located. So they can't just pick up inventory and move it to another location. And so if the tax credit goes away for the truck dealers, guess who gets to pay that price? That's going to be my truckers. And we have seen over the last 4 years of COVID, trucks were $150,000 4 years ago. Currently, to go buy a truck off the lot, it's about $220,000. So you put essentially a tax or, remove the credit that the dealers are paying for, and that's going to far increase the price of our trucks. So we're really feeling the pinch on that right now, and we're really hoping that the legislature does something to fix that problem.
Okay, so you would think on the surface that removing an inventory tax would help out, but if I'm hearing you right, Renee, this is just another shell game going on where instead of lightening the burden, they're just shifting it.
It's the inventory tax credit, Brian. So we pay the inventory tax at the local level.
Yes.
And the only way that the business community could figure out to fix that was way back in the 90s. They started giving us a credit on our income tax. And so what they are trying to do to lower the rate is take away our state credit for the income tax, it's actually a really big burden, especially on small businesses.
What other ones are you looking at right now as far as the special session is concerned?
They have this weird issue where, you go and you rent a car, or we rent trucks or pieces of equipment a lot of times. We've been promised that they're going to fix that. Currently, there's an exemption that we get because the end user is paying that tax, and they were trying to remove it so that when we purchase those pieces of equipment or cars or trucks, then we would have to pay that new tax on it. And what will happen is, it's going to increase the price to all of us. 40% of the cars that people rent in the state of Louisiana are because they're doing it for an insurance claim. And so obviously all that was really going to do is just increase the price of our insurance. But also an alternative for those companies is they could just go buy those cars and trucks in other states where they're going to be cheaper. And every business has to make those business decisions. So we've been assured that that is going to be fixed. We're hoping to get fixed today or tomorrow.
We got about 2 minutes left with Renee Amar from the Louisiana Motor Transport Association. Under sales and services, there's 41 new ones being added along. Is there anything that is really blowing up from y'all's end?
Brian, and HB9, which was that major service bill, they included garbage. I am not a person that gets easily offended. I mean, you could consider that, especially in the industry we're in. But I just fundamentally could not understand how anybody thought that picking up garbage or waste disposal was a luxury. That bill for right now has been stalled. We hope that if it does get revived, that waste has got to be removed from that. That was just utterly ridiculous.
There's so many of them there. And I feel like there was, and look, this is me talking, not you. I don't want to put any bad juju on your work, but there's so many of them where it felt like someone told someone this was a good idea, and they just copied and pasted without even thinking.
I always say that you can't do stuff at the state capitol in a vacuum. Go talk to other people beside your echo chamber.
100%. In the meanwhile, I know you'll be on top of it. Let's get you back on towards the end of the session for a follow-up.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you.
My pleasure. Absolutely. She's Renee Amar, heads up the Louisiana Motor Transport Association. Always insightful. $300+ billion. I tell you what, to put this in very real terms, Friday night, were you on the interstate? I was driving home Friday night. I worked LSU women's basketball Friday night. And at 8 o'clock, they closed down a lane of I-10 or I-12 westbound heading up to the College Drive exit, which meant traffic was just going to be stopped on the interstate, right? Necessary work had to be done. But take notice when you're driving the interstate and you see delays, percentage of 18-wheelers that are out there. And it gives you a good little micro picture of what impact that has on our economy. Just how many trucks do you see? It's huge. Quick break, coming back next. Damn it. It's a Westbrook kind of Monday. It's quiet. no Condon down the hall today. It's quiet. Troy says, I have my doubts about the success of the play for pride approach. Matt says, if they were to play for pride, we would have seen it Saturday. All they did was manage. Bro. I wish I had a full-on sports show, because what we saw on Saturday was, no, actually, I'm glad I don't have an all-sports show, because I'd be fired. What we saw on Saturday was everything that's wrong with college football right now. How is it possible to have that exchange between Chris Hilton and Brian Kelly? And which, by the way, of all the faults that I have with Kelly over the last couple of weeks, I've got his back 80% on this one. The last 20%, he put him back in the damn game. How can you have a profanity-riddled exchange at the top of your lungs with a wide receiver who hasn't been on the field all season because of injury, so he's had no impact on your bottom line, and you're going to shout F-bombs back and forth at him and then put him back in the damn game? That's the kind of thing that I don't understand about today's college football game. From that point, Hilton should have been on the bench the rest of the day. Oh, we're late for your money now, aren't we? Dang it, Bobby. Oh, man. I'm not going to have enough time with Phillip here. 8 minutes is not going to be enough. And every time he's on, he's awesome. But you want to talk about, like, Louisiana about to see a boom. The potential's there. We're up. 652 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Every so often, I like to check in with the folks from R Street. They're a right-leaning, call it that, think tank out of Washington, D.C. one of my favorite columns to check in on when I can. It's called Low Energy Fridays. Author of that would be Mr. Philip Rosetti, who heads up climate, energy, and environment over there at RSI. He joins us now. Philip, good morning. Welcome back to Talk 107.3. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
No, glad to have you on here. So the future of energy policy after the 2024 elections, Republicans hit the trifecta. Donald Trump looks like he's probably going to be able to run with whatever energy policy he has. Walk me through what it's going to look like.
Well, it's going to be certainly a return to the previous Trump administration's preference for, let's say, a more open administration towards any energy type. The Biden administration pretty much did everything it could to restrict oil and gas leasing on public land, restrict energy exports. Trump is going to undo all of that and just say, okay, let's try to put the gas on some of this domestic production. In Congress, you're probably going to see a reconciliation package. So one of the big issues is there are expiring tax provisions from the 2017 tax cuts that were implemented. They expire the end of next year, so Congress is going to be scrambling to make sure that people don't experience a tax cut under their watch. And one of the big questions there is, okay, how do you pay for this? Right. And there's roughly $1 trillion or so of green energy subsidies from the Inflation Reduction Act, which Republicans are going to say, okay, now that we have full control and we can pass a reconciliation bill, we're probably going to use this to address some of our other tax priorities. So that's kind of what I'm expecting, rollback of some of those subsidies and more investment in the permissiveness of new energy production in the United States, let's say.
So when you say permissiveness of energy production, are you speaking specifically about oil and gas, or is there going to be a real effort towards that all-inclusive approach?
It's going to be a mix. So I think one thing that's going to be majorly different is on the oil and gas front, the Biden administration has just been restrictive on the leasing and the permitting front. They've added in new requirements under NEPA for climate estimates and things like that, which I expect the Trump administration to unwind. So just on balance, it's going to seem more preferential to oil and gas just from the way the Biden administration is so antagonistic towards oil and gas.
Right.
But on the clean energy front, there are serious concerns on the permitting aspects that I expect Trump to also address as much as he can, simply because the mechanisms that govern all permitting in the United States, whether it's for energy or other infrastructure, if it's a major project, it has to go through the National Environmental Policy Act. And this is we've seen ballooning permitting timelines under that because there's been so many added regulations and requirements and litigation risk from that package. Under the past Trump administration, NEPA timelines actually managed to go down. They would say a big part of that was from their efforts. So if they manage to do that again, that's also going to make a difference for renewables.
How much of this is going to be the energy producers kind of leading the way here? And I ask that because, like in particular, ExxonMobil has gone to great lengths to build out their all-inclusive energy production here. They're not just an oil and gas company. They're trying to lead the way on all fronts. How much of this is going to be the administration following those that actually do it to say, you do it better than anybody else, go do what you do?
I think that's going to be a big part of it. There's been a certain relationship between the Biden administration and the oil majors. Y'all might recall that a few years ago when gas prices were at their peak, Biden administration was trying to pressure oil companies to say, hey, you guys need to do more refining, even though they had a limited capacity to actually do that. There just was not new capacity being added to these refineries. In those sort of dynamics, I expect Trump to say, hey, let's figure out a way to make this happen and actually get that production out there, which is something that the Biden administration was not doing. So it's going to be kind of harmonious in a way. These companies need to actually have that sort of signal to say, okay, this is a safe investment. I can actually recoup my money. I'm not going to be facing a new regulatory mandate that's going to alter my projection of if this is actually something I get my money back on. But at the same time, it really is going to be private sector driven for any of these activities.
Okay, now that walks us up to, and by the way, Philip Rosetti, resident fellow for energy over at RSI, is our guest. That kind of walks us up to something you mentioned in your column about a Supreme Court ruling from 2022. How does West Virginia versus the EPA play into this?
Yeah, it's a good point. So basically back in 2007, the Supreme Court said, okay, carbon dioxide is an air pollutant that must be regulated by the Environmental Protection Agency. Back in the West Virginia versus EPA decision a couple of years ago, the Supreme Court said, okay, even though you have to regulate that, you can't impose regulations that govern behavior beyond the direct regulated entity. So basically, the Clean Power Plan was an example of this. It wasn't going to just say limit carbon dioxide pollution from these power plants. It was going to say, okay, we're going to actually dictate how the energy sector looks. It's basically what the EPA was saying. And the Supreme Court said, no, the EPA does not have that authority. When you look at the Biden administration's regulatory approach, it's largely been outside of what they call the fence line on these regulations. And that's going to create opportunities for the Trump administration to simply say, yeah, these are not going to hold up in court, which I think is true, and they can simply unwind them. So the leaning on the regulatory approach is something I expect to see way less of under the Trump administration 2.0.
Okay, so we're going to have to pick up this conversation at a later date and talk about the carbon capture and sequestration that is all the rage right now. In the meantime, we're just out of time. He's Philip Rosetti from the R Street Institute. Thank you so much for a couple minutes. It's always a home run, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Here comes news. Oh, I got No! Okay. I got a full minute here?
Yeah. I was giving you the countdown.
No, yeah, but I looked at the countdown and then I looked at the clock.
Oh, sorry. That freaking clock.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm throwing it away today. It's got to go
It's messed
because
you
it keeps throwing me off.
Yeah.
It's for those that don't know.
Me, yeah,
we have
throwing
what's
up.
supposed to be a quote unquote atomic clock in the studio, and yeah, it says we're already 30 seconds late for news right now. So,
No,
yeah.
we got 15 seconds.
Well, you know what? I don't think Philip would have gotten in a full answer on carbon capture
No.
anyway. It needs to be its own segment. We'll have to do that at a later date. Oh, it stinks.
I know, but
Oh, man. All right. Well, we got a busy hour next hour. Medical Monday coming your way. Will Green from LABI coming your way. We'll talk a little bit about film tax credits as well. Here comes news.
I was like, 1 minute, then it was like, all right, here's news. I'm like, wait, what? I was like,
It's on time.
yeah. I was like, whoa, wait, what are we doing? Oh man. No, but you're right though. I mean, you would have had to probably cut him off anyway.
Yeah, it wasn't enough time for another question.
But
He's featured today, by the way.
okay.
And when you post it up, I need you to link back to his column, which I believe I've already closed out. So good. I really wish I could give R Street that segment every week. Monday, 6:50. They're good every time. I don't want to commit to it because it's national. So
But yeah, it's solid every time.
hey, y'all on Facebook, was it too inside baseball? Was it like too deep a dive? Not deep enough? You tell me. All right, grab the Medical Monday from 2 weeks ago, please. No, it's already up. Oh man, Steve Gleason is just the best, the absolute best. .705 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. In a busy second hour it will be. We're going to visit with Dr. Mo during our Medical Monday segment coming up about 10 minutes from right now. Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, going to join us at 7:35, take us back inside the session. You know what? I would elaborate on that, but it's going to cross the streams with top stories and trending. So let's go ahead and hit it.
Number 5.
It is the Senate's turn after the Louisiana House spent the first half of a 20-day special session pushing forward critical components of Governor Landry's tax package. It's now the Senate's turn to vet the plan. Grabbing this from the Advocate, who says the Senate Rev and Fisc Affairs Committee, which handles tax legislation, met yesterday afternoon to begin that process and consider several bills. Committee Chair Franklin Foyle, who was on the show before the session started, by the way, that's available at talk1073.com if you want to check it out, said Sunday's meeting was intended to hear public testimony, but changes to the legislation and committee votes would start today. So on the Senate side, they get into it starting today. Not on the Rev and Fisc Committee, but in the Senate is State Senator Patrick McMath. He's slated to join us coming up at 8:35.
Number 4.
Today is the deadline for those looking to apply for the FEMA Individual Assistance Program in a number of parishes after Hurricane Francine. Those parishes include Ascension, Assumption, Lafourche, Jefferson, St. Charles, St. James, St. John the Baptist, St. Mary, and Terrebonne Parish. The number to call, 800-621-3362, 800-621-3362, or if you Google FEMA and Hurricane Francine, it'll take you there.
Number 3.
2 police cameras are going to be installed to surveil Baton Rouge's interstates, donated by the nonprofit Baton Rouge Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Foundation. Grabbing this one from the Advocate as well. 8 people have been killed in the parish this year in drive-by shootings. More have been injured. The cameras are going to be going up in the northern parts of the parish, but the exact locations have not been released, said Chairman of the Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Foundation, Clay Young. The final placement of the cameras will be left up to either BRPD or the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, depending on whose jurisdiction they are in.
Number 2.
Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome has been elected the National League of Cities' next president. She's going to serve a 1-year term beginning this week at the NLC's summit in Tampa, Florida. The NLC is a nonprofit advocacy organization focused on representing the interests of American cities, towns, and villages.
Number 1.
East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office is investigating an overnight shooting that left one man dead at an apartment complex on Nicholson Drive, just east of Gardere. The shooting happened on Saturday. Deputies were called to the Meadows at Nicholson. They arrived just after 8 p.m., where they found 27-year-old Jonathan James dead in the hallway. No information was given about a suspect nor a motive. What's trending there, John?
Well, Denzel Washington has spoken out against American politics, warning people that they are being manipulated by both sides of the political spectrum.
Love it. Denzel doesn't get into the political fray very often. He'll speak about issues, but not about the overall thing. We talked in the last hour when we talked about this story about how, like, I was absolutely sold on Denzel back into the George W. Bush's term when the tide had turned on the enthusiasm behind the war in Iraq. And Denzel went to the former president's defense saying, look, you don't vilify him. He's just a man doing the best that he can. And it was a very human moment. Yeah. I like human moments. And that was a very human moment where he said, look, I disagree with him here, but lighten up. You're not helping things by piling on.
Yeah, I love Denzel's take on all of this. I mean, yeah, like you said, it adds a human element to it where, regardless of what aisle you're standing on. I mean,
right.
Hey,
stop
everyone's
shouting.
Just trying to do the best they can.
Stop shouting and start talking.
Yeah.
And God forbid, start listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And New Yorkers are showing up in droves to support Halterman's Bakery in Staten Island after Whoopi Goldberg claimed they refused her service because of her political beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah, you got equipment that was failing at the bakery, and it shut them down for a morning or whatever. And
how dare you?
Yeah. And to go on The View and talk about it. Like,
right,
to put them on national blast like that, good for New York, by the way. Good for New York for stepping in and saying, no, these are good people. We know these people. There are people.
Yeah.
They had a boiler that was broken or something to that effect.
Right.
Don't do that.
No.
Don't do that. And the backlash here is on Whoopi, and I believe, I want to say there's a lawsuit being filed against Whoopi, like a defamation type of lawsuit.
Yeah. That's what they slander, things like that. Oh, my goodness. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, shout out to the people of New York standing by their own, man. That's awesome. Hey, from the buffering to the lack of action, the Tyson-Paul fight was a major dud.
It was horrible.
It was
absolutely horrible.
Yeah. Oh, where do you begin, right? Brought you back to the days of dial-up, right?
Yeah.
Of buffering.
It's like my TV tried. My TV tried to tell me not to watch it. Tried so hard to tell me not to watch it. All right, here's where I want to start. The 58-year-old man looked like a 58-year-old man.
Yes.
That's just the way it is. I don't know what happened to the Mike Tyson of the training videos.
I don't know.
Because that guy was spry. That guy was on his toes. That guy was a whirlwind of action. The 58-year-old man that was in the ring on Friday night was flat-footed, slow to move, overprotective, not aggressive. I don't know.
He lived up to the low expectations of his age and all these things.
It all came out. It all came out. And he had a couple punches early that landed that looked like if they'd had 3-minute rounds instead of 2, he could have, like, instinct could have taken over and he could have capitalized.
Oh, yeah.
But, man.
But as you mentioned in the first hour, I mean, he was being told by his trainers.
Yes, trainers.
Be aggressive.
In his ear. You've got to be more aggressive.
Yeah.
So he won the first 2 rounds and then lost the next 6.
Right.
So by 6, 7, and 8, your trainers in your ear said, you're going to lose this fight if you don't open up. And by that time, I feel like that was too late because by that time, he's tired.
Yeah. And you saw it. I mean, it was very noticeable.
Yeah. He needs some warm milk and an episode of Murder, She Wrote.
But definitely not the Tyson we saw training.
Werther's Originals and a Piccadilly Early Bird. Like, no.
Oh, man.
No, don't make old jokes about Mike Tyson. He's only 10 years older than me. I guess I shouldn't do that. By the way, this is completely not related and related at the same time. Shout out to Steve Gleason, the former New Orleans Saint who has been in the battle with ALS for forever. A Twitter account called Joe Horn's Cell Phone, which is hilarious in and of itself, tweeted, Jake Paul has announced his next opponent, Saints legend Steve Gleason.
Oh.
I know, right? I know, it's so brutal. But Gleason tweets out, name the time and place. There are very few New Orleans legends that can top Steve Gleason.
Oh, man.
You just, oh, man. So anyway, all right, we got a break here real quick. When we come back, we got Medical Monday coming your way. The Medical Monday this week will be an encore presentation, if you will. We talked with Dr. Mo a couple weeks ago. Fantastic conversation. That will be coming your way next.
That's what I wanted to say on air. People are just making jokes about everything. Jake Paul has agreed to a home run derby against Babe Ruth.
Awesome.
It's like, dude, come on, man.
We should be doing those like as news updates throughout. See, this is one where if it were a sports show, we would be doing that throughout.
Oh, man.
A 3-point shootout versus Bob Cousy. He's going to fight Jimmy Carter.
The only reason I'm glad Muhammad Ali is dead is because Jake Paul would try to box him at 80 if he was alive today. Oh, terrible.
Oh, that is wonderful.
He did call out Conor McGregor, though. I did see that.
Yeah, and Conor McGregor is not a boxer.
Right.
And Conor
You're like, what are
McGregor has
you
already
doing?
lost the only boxing match he's ever been
Right.
in.
It's like, what are you doing? Like, it's insane.
And if Conor McGregor fights him, I'll watch that shit too.
Oh, yeah, I would. Absolutely.
Conor
all would.
McGregor shouldn't fight him, though.
No, absolutely not. I don't think he should, but we'd all tune in. As long as it's
I
not on
wouldn't pay
Netflix.
for it.
No.
Yeah, if we're on Netflix.
No, yeah, give us Netflix.
Yeah, and I'll tune in early.
Yeah.
Just leave it on pause.
Yeah, that was terrible, man.
Troy says the portal is the great equalizer for players who are threatened with the doghouse. Fine. Go then. We do not have a shortage of wide receivers. Matt says he should have been benched, but Kelly needs playmakers on the field. Losing wasn't an option, and they did it spectacularly. Yeah. And losing's not an option, and they did it, but is Chris Hilton even a playmaker right now? Can you call him that? Because you can't point to the play that he's made to make him a playmaker. One must make plays to be playmaker. How about that?
It's time for your weekly checkup. This is Medical Monday, presented by Our Lady of the Lake Health.
Yes, it is time for Medical Monday, and as I'm sure you noticed, heading into the weekend, we've rolled the calendar over to November. That would make it Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, and we're welcoming back to the show Dr. Muhammad Al-Efashat, an expert in surgical oncology and pancreatic cancer over at Our Lady of the Lakes Physicians Group here in Baton Rouge. Dr. Mo, welcome back. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. Good morning. How about you?
Doing very well as well. Ready to rock and roll here because look, there's hundreds of types of cancer and only 12 months out of the year. So when one of them rises to the level of having an awareness month to go along with it, we should obviously give that one a little bit of attention and raise awareness. So let's start with pancreatic cancer awareness. This is one that used to be one that if you got that diagnosis, the outlook was really poor. Is that still where we are, or have we gotten better at treating this?
Well, we definitely have made big strides in the treatment and in the success of treating pancreatic cancer over the past decade. Over the past 10 years, every year we have seen increase in the overall kind of survival, meaning how long the patients live. And right now, when you talk about pancreas cancer, it really depends on the stage of the disease. So if you have a localized pancreas cancer, like in stage 1 or 2, the survival rates can be in the 40, even 50%, meaning your chances of cure coming in is about 40 to 50%. Now, if the disease has spread to the lymph nodes around the pancreas, that drops down. And obviously, if the disease has spread elsewhere to the liver or other organs, then yes, it's an aggressive type of cancer, and the chances of cure are dismal. But that's why we try to get the diagnosis done early so that we have the highest chance of cure.
How does it compare to other types of cancer? When you talk about a 40-50% within stage 1, what does that look like when compared to other types of cancer? And I know it's probably not fair to say something like like a skin cancer or whatever, but other similar types of cancer.
Yeah, so pancreas cancer, we're not going to sugarcoat it. It's one of the more aggressive ones. Right. So when you compare it, for example, to colon cancer, breast cancer, it's definitely more aggressive, and kind of the numbers are lower. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, when you compare stage 3 breast cancer is better than stage 1 pancreas cancer. Just to put it kind of in perspective, and also in terms of numbers, although pancreas cancer is not, one of the, most common cancers that we see. So there's only about maybe 60,000 cases a year in the United States, but it's the number 2 in terms of cancer deaths overall. So that just tells you about how, aggressive the disease is. And the problem we face is that a lot of patients present at a late stage, and that's something oftentimes we can't control. And when they present at this stage, the treatment options are limited. So that also adds to the fact that it's one of the most lethal or deadly cancers, mainly because a lot of the patients present at advanced stages.
Okay, yes. So, early detection is the key for basically every type of cancer out there. Why is it we see this presenting in such a late stage with pancreatic cancer? Is it are there not really overt symptoms that you would be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. So number one is what you alluded to in terms of symptoms. So sometimes this cancer does not show any symptoms until it is advanced, especially if it's in the part of the pancreas that's called the body and the tail of the pancreas. These are notorious for growing to a large size and metastasizing, meaning spreading to other organs without causing, much symptoms. It can be some abdominal pain, but abdominal pain is a very common symptoms. And let's face it, I sometimes have an abdominal pain on a day. It's like it's just, abdominal cramp, and just kind of not worry about it. So it is easy to kind of overlook the subtle symptom of, abdominal pain that sometimes is not severe enough until it becomes too advanced. Number two is that we do not have a screening program for pancreas cancer. It's not like colon cancer or breast cancer where you have a nationwide, well-established screening program that has been proven over and over to improve the survival rates and improve the early detection. We don't have that in pancreas cancer for multiple reasons that we can talk about. But these are the two major reasons why patients present at a late stage. About 50% of patients present at metastatic, which is stage 4 cancer.
You say there's no screening program, but is there a screening specifically? Is it, if there was something that y'all would be on the lookout for, is there screening available?
Yes, that's a very good question. So there are a group of individuals in the community that are considered high risk for pancreas cancer. These are individuals who have family history of pancreas cancer, meaning mom or dad had pancreas cancer, and especially if they have a gene mutation. So if you look at the NCCN guidelines, if they have a gene mutation that leads to increased risk of pancreatic cancer, then they should be enrolled in what we call high-risk pancreas cancer screening, which we offer here at Our Lady of the Lake.
Talk with Dr. Mo from Our Lady of the Lake, as it is Medical Monday, and we're talking pancreatic cancer. So if you are part of that higher risk group, if you do have a family history of it, obviously there's measures of prevention you would want to take earlier on in life. So what does prevention look like? What should you be avoiding or doing or not doing in order to stay, improve your chances of staying clear?
Yeah, so for the patients who are at high risk, really, we need to keep them on a tight kind of screening program. So they need to have an MRI and endoscopic ultrasound every year. We also send tumor markers and blood tests. So these are it's a minority of the population. But to answer your question, for the majority of the population, in order to decrease your chances of getting pancreas cancer, you need to avoid the risk factors for pancreas cancer. That's the best way of, basically there's no screening, but you can decrease your chance of getting it by avoiding smoking, by maintaining a healthy weight. Diabetes is considered, one of the risk factors. Chronic pancreatitis, which most often is caused by drinking alcohol, but it also can be caused by gallstones or stones in the gallbladder. And there are other environmental factors. There are certain chemicals in the environment, like pesticides and benzene and other chemicals that can increase your risk of pancreas cancer.
Talk with Dr. Mo from Our Lady of the Lake about pancreatic cancer. Let's move over to once there is a diagnosis. Let's talk about treatment options. What are there?
So in order to cure pancreas cancer, you need a combination of surgery and chemotherapy. Sometimes we also utilize radiation, especially when there's involvement of the arteries and the vessels surrounding the pancreas. But the cornerstone of treatment is removing the tumor and then giving the chemotherapy. Oftentimes, we give the chemotherapy first and then do the surgery, and this gives you the highest, chance for a cure.
So the surgery plus the chemotherapy. So you're basically talking about hopefully removing and then just like making sure all the bases were covered after it.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So the surgery removes the bulk of the tumor, but we know that pancreas cancer is a systemic disease even at stage 1. And what that means is that cells from the tumor itself escape and they're floating in the blood. So even if you have stage 1 pancreas cancer, so we took the tumor out, we diagnosed you with stage 1, you will still need chemotherapy because we know even stage 1 pancreas cancer can have these cells floating in the blood and they can cause the cancer spread or the cancer coming back. So that's why everybody gets chemotherapy.
Dr. Mo, it sounds so daunting. Is this one where we see recurring, more often than not, recurring cases? I mean, this sounds like one where once you're in the clear, or how confident can you be that you are in the clear?
Yeah, so and this stands true for most cancers. We define cure as having no evidence of disease for 5 years.
Okay.
So after 5 years, we can kind of say that, okay, you're cured. And for a patient who had pancreatic cancer and had the full treatment, we keep getting CAT scans every 3 to 6 months for the first 2 years, and then every 6 to 12 months for a total of 5 years in order to make sure that the cancer does not come back. But in general, after the 5 years, we kind of declare the patient cured of the cancer.
I guess it's a long time before exhaling, but at the same time, better safe than sorry.
Right. That is exactly right. Yep.
Let's talk about what's new. Let's talk about advancements. What's the latest when it comes to diagnosis and treatment?
Yeah, so I think the world of minimally invasive surgery and robotic surgery has made a significant impact. So we do robotic pancreas surgery, including the robotic Whipple procedure and robotic distal pancreatectomy, and this allows the patient to recover faster so that they can get to the chemotherapy faster and not miss the kind of what we call the golden window in which chemotherapy is most effective. Say we do the surgery November 1st, the patient really should get the chemotherapy within 6 weeks after the surgery. And having smaller incisions and a quicker recovery, and especially for patients who are older, it gets them back on their feet much faster. So I think that's a huge advancement in the field. And from the screening standpoint, we have artificial intelligence technology in which we detect all the incidental pancreas cysts, because some of these can turn into cancer. So we have a program at Our Lady of the Lake in which we capture all these incidental cysts that may have been kind of found on a trauma CT scan, meaning you get in a car wreck, you get a CAT scan, and we find a pancreas cyst. We want to make sure that these don't go unnoticed or fall between the cracks. So we enroll them in our pancreas cyst clinic, and we keep an eye on them with MRIs to make sure that they don't turn into cancer. As a matter of fact, 20% of pancreas cancer originate from such cysts. So this screening program is, one of the ways that, we have in order to catch them early and intervene before they turn into full-blown cancer.
Is there any harm in removing a non-cancerous cyst? Like, there's no benefit in leaving it there, so why not?
That is a very good question, and this is a conversation I have, with so many patients every week. The thing is that it's a matter of risk and benefit. Pancreas surgery is a big surgery, so we don't want to do a surgery that has, relatively high risk of complications if we're not going to help you. So some of these cysts are going to stay the same size and don't turn into cancer, and, they're going to behave well. So there's no need to remove them, no need to put the patient through a surgery. But we keep a close eye on them, and once they start showing early signs of, let's call it misbehavior, then we intervene because the benefit of the surgery outweighs the risk of, the complications that come with the surgery. But if it was, just kind of a removal of the cyst, then yeah, sure, we can remove all the cyst. But, in order to remove the cyst, you have to remove a portion of the pancreas, which involves, a big surgery, and, we don't want to put a patient through a risk if we're not going to benefit them.
Yeah, there's the rub. Yeah, on the back end, there's the rub for sure.
Yep.
This is Medical Monday presented by the folks over at Our Lady of the Lake. We're talking with Dr. Mo about Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. Dr. Mo, where can folks go if they want to learn more?
Well, they can go to our website, olrmc.com/cancer, and we have more resources, and they can always call our office number at 225-765-5656, and we're always happy to answer any questions.
Fascinating information. Really, really appreciate the time this morning. Great stuff.
You got it. Thank you so much for having me and for raising awareness.
Before we get you to the news, got to remind you about the folks over at McMath. Man, I've been by McMath's too much over the last week or so, taking advantage of the wing bar. So at the end of the salad bar, they got a wing bar, and there's a variety of different chicken wings out there, and I've just been crushing it. The Korean barbecue is so good. The sweet and spicy is good. The hot honey's good as well. It's phenomenal, and it's available to McMath's on Nicholson in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center, directly across the street from Tiger Stadium. And oh, by the way, when you've got the app, you're earning cash towards more groceries every time you shop. Now, on top of that, got to remind you, make the holidays a little bit easier. They have catering menus available at McMath's. All right. I'm counting that as the McMath's read. Byron, I took 2 L's over the weekend in my 2 fantasy football leagues, and another L playing the Sunday night game on daily. That being said, I'm in first place in one league and second place in another, so I'm not sweating it. Final score, not the box score. It did show in the box score. That's what the The box score's 4. Yeah. Yeah. Damn it. This week was just it's a 2-quarterback league, and my 3 quarterbacks, I got to pick between 2 of them every week. I've got Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, and Sam Darnold. I picked Rodgers and Goff this week because Indianapolis' defense, pass D is doo-doo, and I'm not betting against Goff anytime soon. Darnold is supposed to be struggling at this point. I got one of the 2 right. I should have had Darnold over Rodgers, but I made the wrong call there. Alvin Kamara not scoring hurts me every week. Terry McLaurin being shut out on Thursday night really started the week off wrong. He had a projected like 14 points, and they got 2. But there was no stopping the guy I'm playing this week because, like, where did all his points come from? Oh, I got beat by a kicker. He had Chris Boswell. So, like, I had Jake Elliott from Philly who posted up 6 points, and you expect 9 points from a kicker. Chris Boswell had 24. Got beat by a stupid kicker this week. Oh, also having George Kittle out hurt me. Terrible. I lost in the Dave Ramsey League, which could put me in a tie for first. In 1980, Eddie Rabbitt released a song, I Love a Rainy Night. And that's exactly what Emma Kate Cowan's talking about right now. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. Hey, Gordy. This be stuck in everybody's head now. It's on me. That's on me. I did that. Gordy. 737 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Time to dive back into the legislative session on tax reform, and to do that, we're visiting, as we do every Monday, with Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Will, welcome back. How are you, man?
Brian, good morning. Man, a month or so ago, did you think that we'd be talking about the Saints on a win streak and LSU on a losing streak?
No, I did not. I thought we would stop talking about the Saints altogether, and we'd be talking about the playoff picture right now.
Yeah, it is interesting times in Louisiana football, man.
Yeah, and not just losing, but like the shouting matches on the sideline and all of it. It doesn't look like they've got it together. It's not just a matter of the final score or one bad game, but man, it's rough.
Yeah, that's not positive. And so they gotta get something fixed over there.
No, they absolutely do. Which this season's done. So, you prep for a bowl game, you hope for a good location and a fun opponent, but there's only so much excitement can be driven up by that.
Yeah, try to end on a positive note.
Right, absolutely. We're about midway through, a little over midway through the special session. What are your notes and takeaways as things move from the House to the Senate?
Yeah, so last week we saw a lot of the major tax reforms move from the House over to the Senate. And so we saw the franchise tax repeal legislative measure move out of the House over to the Senate. We've talked about that before. We're one of about 15 states with a franchise tax. We saw legislation to reduce personal income tax and corporate income tax move over to the Senate as well. And then really what they were focusing on towards the end of the week were, okay, how do we, those are significant reductions in taxes to business and to individuals, which means it's going to be a reduction in what the state takes in collections. And so in order to balance the budget, how do we do that? Well, the legislature also filed some pay-fors in the form of a digital goods tax, and in the form of significant elimination of credits and exemptions. The legislature wanted to renew the 0.45, which they ended up renewing a 0.4 of sales tax. And then also the plan was to significantly expand the number of services that are taxed. And so those were the pay-fors in order to significantly make our tax system more competitive. The digital goods tax at the end of the week moved over to the Senate and was heard in Rev and Fisk yesterday evening for debate. It was not voted on, as well as the legislation by Representative Mark Wright to renew the 0.4 cent of sales tax, as well as remove significant exemptions and exclusions. However, one significant piece of that pay-for, the expansion of taxes on services. Currently, Louisiana taxes about 8 services. They were going to expand that to about 48. That bill stalled in the House, and so that it is still on the calendar for debate. But I'm being told they're having a hard time getting the necessary votes for that.
Do we know why? And this would kind of sub-question here, what would be Lobby's take on that? Because when you talk about expanding the taxes on a number of services, you're talking about the cost of doing business going up on a number of small businesses.
Sure. We looked at that bill, and you go from 8 services to 48, especially in a state that doesn't have a centralized sales tax collection system. You're talking about significantly complicating the lives of businesses as they try to collect and remit. And then in addition to that, when you don't have a centralized collection system and you've got 50 or some odd collectors, and remember, Brian, these service taxes were going to be at the state and local level. And so you've got 50 some odd local collectors that could interpret what the definition of that new tax meant. They could expand it or they could limit it, and there's a lot of confusion there. And so one of them was the tax on a movable property and additions and improvements to a movable property. And what did that mean? I know they went in and amended that definition a little bit to exclude turnarounds and plant work and natural disasters and things like that. But I think there was still some heartburn over just how that was going to work in practice. To a lot of businesses, lawn care and maintenance and things like that. I think there was a lot of concern.
We're talking with Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. We're in that weird spot right now, Will, where it's tough to balance all of these things. Are you able to back up to a 10,000-foot view to see if this is still, if the squeeze is worth the juice, or the juice is worth the squeeze, however the phrase goes, on like when it comes to doing business in Louisiana? Are we just moving things around, or is this going to move in the right direction?
Well, Brian, one of the difficult things about this session, and it has been from the start, is we're trying to do significant tax reform while we're trying to do budget reform as well. And so we're in a budget deficit, and so we're trying to examine, okay, how do we fill the budget deficit? How do we identify that and at the same time do tax reform? And so that's really complicated. I mean, you should do tax reform for the sake of tax reform. You shouldn't do tax reform to try to fill a deficit. And what I mean by that is I've had conversations on things like vendors' compensation. And so vendors' compensation is a mechanism in which the state compensates a business for adequately and correctly and timely collecting the state sales tax for them. And we've talked about this, Brian, we're one of 2 states in the country that doesn't have a centralized sales tax collection system. So as you can imagine, it is incredibly costly for a business to correctly, timely, and adequately collect sales tax. And so in return for a business taking that on, they get what's called vendors' compensation. Well, in one of the legislative measures, vendors' compensation is being repealed. And so the conversations we've had around that is, well, that's a bad idea to repeal that, and even cost the center, a good bipartisan, a nonpartisan think tank, even called that out as, look, that's bad tax policy. But it's about $30 million of the fiscal note, and so we recognize it's bad tax policy to get rid of it, but it has a $30 million fiscal note, and when you're trying to balance a budget, do you look and go, okay, we need good tax policy or we need a balanced budget? And that's why it's so difficult in a year when you need both to try to accomplish such large achievements.
Does that mean we did this backwards?
Well, I don't know if it means we did it backwards, Brian, but I think it makes it a lot more complicated. But at the same time, we're one of 9 states that fully taxes inventory.
Right.
We're one of 3 states in the country that has a corporate franchise, income, and inventory tax. And so, those are things when we're trying to compete with Mississippi, Arkansas, Texas, Florida, North Carolina for not only jobs and growth and investment and manufacturing and business. I mean, the time is now to do something. It just complicates things when we're also in a deficit. And so I commend the administration. I commend leadership. I commend Secretary Bourgeois at LED and Secretary Nelson for trying to put a plan together to accomplish all these things. I guess my point is it's not easy, and it's significantly more difficult when you're trying to do it in 2 weeks.
No, absolutely, and it's kind of proving the point that we probably should rewrite the Constitution.
Yeah, look, I mean, especially when you do have a budget shortfall and so much is tied up in the Constitution and the legislature is so handcuffed, really the only options are tax business,
right,
increase taxes, or cut higher ed and hospitals, which, again, none of those are good options.
No, absolutely they're not. We got Will Green on with us. He's the president and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. So map out this week. What do you think it's going to look like? What do you think is actually going to cross the finish line?
Well, it's in the Senate's hands now. Senate President Cameron Henry, I've talked with him. I know he is aggressively working to put those pieces of the puzzle together to try to figure out how can we accomplish good tax policy while at the same time not taking too much of a hit to our state fisc and our locals. And he is a budget wizard. He served a lot of time on appropriations and in the finance committee. And so, if anybody can do that, he can.
Absolutely. I don't think the deadline's going to get him here. I think they get in everything under the wire. That which they're going to get in.
Yeah, I mean, so look, do they accomplish everything? We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But do we get some good movement to carry us into the next fiscal session? I am confident we'll get something that can carry us into the fiscal session and maybe complete the work then.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we got about 2 minutes left. Will, do you mind if we pivot and talk about something y'all got on the calendar coming up, I believe, on Wednesday?
Sure.
The Business Excellence Awards luncheon?
Yeah, so Brian, this is our preeminent business awards where we honor leaders in our Louisiana businesses. We revamped it. It's a renewed event. We're doing it at the Renaissance. It's a luncheon. I do believe our tables are sold out. We do have a few individual tickets left, but we're incredibly excited to honor some of the business innovators, job creators, and leaders in our business community here in Louisiana. And then, of course, to honor Bill Finstamaker, our Ed Steimel Award winner. Ed Steimel, as you know, was the first president and CEO of Lobby, and that award is named after him, and that honors the business champion for Louisiana for free enterprise every year in Louisiana. And so really excited to honor him and so many others, individuals and businesses in Louisiana on Wednesday at the Renaissance Hotel at lunch.
Very cool stuff. He's Will Grain, President, CEO of LABI. We always appreciate the conversation, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. It's 7:50 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Let's check your money now. Let's check traffic. Come back, talk about that film tax credit next. Good Lord. Yeah. I walked myself down a damn distracted rabbit hole during that segment of thinking I was working LSU women's basketball tonight. Big time shout out to Patrick Reynolds. I didn't think anyone was going to catch that. Top stories in trending. The guy was killed at shot and killed at the apartment complex off Nicholson known as The Meadows. No, I can't say The Meadows without sounding like Stuart McKenzie. Was the dad named Stuart? And the what was his name? Hid! Charlie McKenzie. Charlie was Mike Myers' name. What was the kid's name? Was it William? Move your head if you can. Get the paper if you can, hauling that gargantuan cranium about. That boy's head has its own weather system.
What are you talking?
You have no idea what I'm talking about, do you?
Yeah, I do.
What?
That's the Mike Myers. So I married an axe murderer.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So he
So I
talked
do
about
catch some of them.
there was a group of the 5 wealthiest people in the world known as the Pentaveret. They would meet triannually as a place called the Meadows. So I can't say the Meadows without sounding like him.
I don't see how you memorize. I'm like, I mean, I have not seen that movie and it's been a long freaking time. But yeah,
The Pentaveret. So who's in this Pentaveret? The Queen, the Vatican, the Gettys, the Rothschilds, and Colonel Sanders before he went tits up. Oh, I hated the Colonel with his wee beady little eyes. Oh, you're going to buy me chicken. Oh.
like how do you?
I don't know.
I mean,
you know
and
how
it's
much
such.
science is not in my brain because shit like that is?
Oh,
Like, I could
That is
earn a living
fun.
somewhere. I could be a doctor if I could commit to my brain
right.
the useless pop culture that I have.
Especially that one. Like that's like a Mike Myers like deep cut.
But it's one of his best.
Deep cut.
$7:55 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. More with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again to Will Green from LABI. Hops on board every Monday. Fantastic insight to be sure. It's just there's so much left in the air right now. So I'm already looking forward to next Monday's conversation where we can kind of put a button on all of it. We're going to get you to the film tax credit here in just a second, but I do need to remind you about the folks over at Parish Construction and Roofing. ParishBuilt.com. ParishBuilt.com is the website. Do business with someone you know is the tagline. Do business with someone who's currently on my roof. It's another possible tagline right there. They're getting it done over there at the Haldane household today. I was told by my wife before she left this morning, she said Parish is already here. Today's the day, y'all. I cannot wait to get home. I don't know. Does it take? I've never had to put on a new roof before, so I don't know. Does it take 1 day, 2 days? What does it take? Are they going to get it done before it rains tonight? I don't know. We're just kind of sitting right there. But I chose to do business with someone I know, and since I've made that decision, since I hopped on ParishBuilt.com and filled out the little form and got them up on my roof, I've learned that doing business with someone you know, it means so much more than just a tagline. It means you can call them, you can text them, and they're going to call back. They're going to text back. They're on the spot. Whoever it is you're dealing with or whoever is helping you out along the way, Zach is my guy. Whoever's helping you out along the way returns phone calls. Whoever's helping you out along the way is there when your insurance adjuster is out there telling you this, telling you that to make sure you understand the process from start to finish. And finish is getting pretty close. So give them a call at 364-1007. Oh, you know what? I was driving up Goodwood the other day. On Goodwood, the house that's just west of St. Thomas More had the Parish Construction and Roofing signs out front as well. Had the little yard signs out there. Roof looks spectacular. Another job well done by Parish Construction and Roofing. 364-1007 or parishbuilt.com. All right. Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, you heard this from our news partners at Louisiana Radio Network at the bottom of the hour. He's got concerns over the proposed tax reform measures that would eliminate the film incentive program and the historic building tax credits. Nungesser's arguing that cutting these programs entirely could harm the state's economy, particularly in sectors benefiting from tourism and film production.
9% of everyone that comes to Louisiana is heavily influenced by a movie, a TV show. It has a great impact on tourism, and we just want the legislature to understand that it's not just the dollars and cents for the credit.
No, it's not the dollars and cents for the credit, especially when you consider the fact that when the credit goes away, the dollars and cents go away too. It's not like you could just replace that which is credited and move it over to the state's bottom line. That's the impossible part about this whole thing. We had State Representative Julie Emerson on talking about this last week, and we'll get to her in a second. Nungesser says the programs have proven their value in the past as it brings in significant investment in jobs to Louisiana. Go look just off of Bluebonnet Airline. Go look at Celtic Studios. That is a perfect example locally of how the infrastructure has been built out to make sure that filming movies in Louisiana isn't just bringing in a bunch of Hollywood types. We give them all a bunch of credits and all their income goes back home again. Meanwhile, on the historic tax credit side, this is talking about preserving our unique cultural heritage and revitalizing communities.
The historical tax credit has such an impact on the Main Street program, which is under my office, and so many buildings that have been brought back to life in these communities that are good for the local community, good for tourism, and it preserves the history.
Let's get back to Julie Emerson, back to the film tax credit. She talks about how, was on the show last week, talking about how the reforms, it's about eliminating all the credits being a necessary step to balancing the budget.
All of them together are worth about $600 million, which is roughly what we're lowering the rate by. It'll be a little bit more, but it's roughly a trade-off.
You know what? We're going to have to pick this up later on. Right now, here comes hour 3. That was piss poor clock management. I take the blame for that. Well, now they need to sue the news companies for contributing to that influence. Is this guy AI? Y'all.
That's an interesting question. I don't know.
Scott Carr?
Now I'm intrigued.
He's got a LinkedIn. I don't know, man. He's got a studio built out at home and everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's funny your thought was AI. He did sound a little machine-like, a little programmed.
Bro, he's never posted on his own LinkedIn. What the deuce? Oh. Scott hasn't posted yet. He's been on LinkedIn for... It doesn't show how long he's been here. 732 followers. Oh, no. All right. What? .806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. We got a busy third hour for you this hour. Moon Griffon going to hop on board on our next segment as he does on Mondays. We'll talk about everything under the sun with Moon. Yeah, it's going to be a lot about the tax session for sure. And then, keeping with that tax session, State Senator Patrick McMath from Covington going to join us at 8:35 to talk about that. Senator McMath is not on Rev and Fisk, where everything's going to start on the Senate side, or has started on the Senate side. But things will broaden out to his to the Senate floor, which is where he's going to, step into the whole thing. Before we get to any of that, though, we start off the third hour with This Day in History. Can I give a shout out to 5-Star Printing and
Absolutely.
Signs? I debated whether or not I was going to do this. I didn't do it last week because the wound was still too deep, and even though LSU lost again, I got to give a shout out to 5-Star. Our own Alondra Villarreal called Danny and his team over at 5-Star and said, "I need to get a sign on ESPN's Game Day." And when Game Day was out in Baton Rouge, did you see the Bama is Burning sign on TV that had Matt Moscona in it as the Grim Reaper? Now, things didn't play out the way we wanted to, for sure. But still, the sign looked good.
Came through.
The sign was on point.
Yeah. That's
but
awesome.
yeah. It's that was a 5-Star project right there. So shout out to Danny for getting that done.
I like that. Yeah. Man. Hey, starting off in 1928, Walt Disney's Steamboat Willie is released. The first
Steamboat
Mickey
Willie.
Mouse.
That's a terrible name. They should change his name.
They should.
To Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
The
first
Sorry, did
Mickey
I step
Mouse
on your
sound
punchline?
cartoon.
Twice?
You did that.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. I guess. Hey, 1961, JFK sends 18,000 military advisors to South Vietnam.
Okay.
I wonder why. Let's see, 1978. This history is just insane. In Jonestown, Guyana, 918 members of the People's Temple were murdered or commit suicide under the leadership of cult leader Jim Jones.
You know, so
that happened.
We use the phrase "drink the Kool-Aid" a lot. That's where that started. That's where that phrase started from. Drink the Kool-Aid started with a mass suicide. But we talk about if you want to be on board with something. We need everybody to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Okay, people died when they drink the Kool-Aid. Like that's one of those phrases that gets misused all the time. You know another one that gets misused all the time?
What's that?
Is, and Moscona does this one too. Make him an offer he can't refuse. And people talk about that. They use that phrase saying it's a very good offer, meaning like it's millions of dollars or whatever. It's an offer he can't refuse. Yeah. No, an offer you can't refuse is, and I quote, either your signature or your brains are going to be on that contract. An offer you can't refuse is a threat of death.
Yeah, right. But we say it so flippantly sometimes.
We mean just it's a really good deal.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't turn down that kind of money. It's an offer he couldn't refuse. No. My father went back to him. This time he brought Luca Brazzi and said and made him an offer he can't refuse. Either your signature. That's how Johnny Fontaine got out of his contract. That's your Godfather lesson.
All right, there we go. Oh, man. Hey, in lieu of boxing, talking about boxing over the weekend, 1982, South Korean boxer Duk Koo Kim dies from injuries sustained during a 14-round beating by Ray Mancini in Las Vegas. The WBC shortens title bouts to 12 rounds. So I guess the guy, whoa,
man,
we'll beat him on the, verge of death, but we don't want to, we'll shorten it 2 rounds.
Yeah.
So that's how that started.
All right.
Let's see. Christmas Story was released today in 1983.
No kidding.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. And speaking of movies, 2005 today also, Walk the Line was released. Joaquin Phoenix, of course, as Johnny Cash.
Oh, all right.
Reese Witherspoon as June Carter. I don't know if your kids were ever into this, Brian, but 2011 Minecraft was released today.
Heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's as far as history today.
Yep. That's what we got.
Want to move on to birthdays?
Sure.
All right. Actor Owen Wilson today.
Wow.
Wow. Comedian Mike Epps.
All right.
Let's see. Kirk Hammett today of Metallica.
Okay.
David Ortiz today. And also, this is funny, Mickey and Minnie Mouse today, 96 years young. Of course, they premiered in the
Actually, you know what? I had one more for this day in history.
What you got?
It was on this day in 1999 that Texas A&M had the tragic bonfire that collapsed.
Ooh.
Yeah, bonfire collapsed, killed 12. That was this day in 1999. Back to birthdays, though. Who were the last two again?
David Ortiz,
Puppy,
and Mickey and Minnie Mouse today.
Well, yeah, Mickey and Minnie Mouse because it was So also born on this day was to go along with David Ortiz. Sorry, this is not giving me my list here. Former Marlins and Dodgers outfielder and Brewers outfielder Gary Sheffield and Hall of Fame Oilers quarterback Warren Moon.
Okay, yeah. As far as deaths go, I got 2017 here. Malcolm Young from the band AC/DC.
Uh-huh. That's all you got?
That's pretty much.
That's it?
Notable.
All right. Well, I'll add to that, though.
All right, yeah.
With Joseph Kennedy.
Okay.
The elder there died in 1969. And, of course, you mentioned Jim Jones. He was the cult leader. He died there as well. Yeah. Oh, and former President Chester A. Arthur died on this day in 1886.
Yeah. Let's see. National Days, of course. It's Disney theme. It's Mickey Mouse Day today. And,
sure.
Odd Socks Day.
Odds. What? All right. Clarify. What defines an odd sock?
I don't know. I guess the pictures, or maybe even Mix-Max.
Yeah, because I'm a fun socks kind of guy. I like my sock game.
Right.
I believe I've got the Marvin the Martians on today.
Really?
Some Bugs Bunnies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I get dressed in the dark. I don't know. So
you might have two different socks. Who
No.
knows?
I do my laundry in
right.
with the lights on,
right.
but I don't want to wake the wife in the morning.
That's
so
funny.
I'll just grab whatever's in the drawer and there's a part of a light coming in from the bathroom, and I'm trying to be as quiet as possible. So
right.
sit on the end of the bed, put my socks on. I think I got
I think Marvin the Martian would count as.
Yeah,
as
I got a Bugs Bunny. It's a Bugs Bunny and Marvin the Martian on today's.
Okay, yeah.
So 8:13 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Let's speaking of odd socks, we got Moon Griffon on next. What? Speaking of odd socks.
Speaking of odd socks.
Boy, here's a good question. Oh. Eight 17 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Time to get caught up with Moon Griffon. You hear him weekdays 9 to 11 right here on Talk 107.3 FM and statewide as well. Moon, how you doing, brother?
Man, I'm hanging in there. Kind of a mixed bag on the football weekend, but I'm gonna stay hopefully optimistic. How about that?
Yeah, it's we're done for the season for LSU. I mean, you can put together a bowl game, I guess, but it definitely looks like regression, and definitely looks like it's not just the losses. It's the shouting matches. I don't know. I still have faith in the coach. I'm not one of those guys that like throws out the baby with the bathwater here, but man, it's a rough start to the week.
Well, you got that kind of stuff, and I do believe that he worked through adversity.
Mm-hmm.
They look like there's some problems, but anytime you're winning, you think everything's rosy.
Right.
And I got to tell you, if you go back to the 2019 LSU team, which everybody always looking at as wins, loss, and how good they were, might have been the greatest team ever. I guarantee there was adversity you never heard about because you were winning.
Right.
Ron, look, I played sports in the college ball, blew my knees out again. And I'm telling you right now, when you're going through the good times and you're winning, you just don't hear about it. When you're going through the bad times and the struggles and the frustration, it goes out on the field. And just take it from an old guy who loves sports, there's just as much chaos in a winning season. Now, you got team leadership and all that, but they're able to squash it. Trust me, there was controversy on the 2019 team. I'm not saying I know of it. I'm just telling you that's life. It's just the way it is. But when you're losing, it's like everything falls over. And the other thing is, social media over the last 5 to 10 years gets coaches and people in trouble a lot more than if you didn't have social media.
Oh, no, 100%. Moon, if I see a shouting match on the sideline for 3 seconds during a game, that's one thing. If I see that same 3-second exchange 5,000 times over the next 24 hours, it makes it seem so much worse.
Yeah, I'm just telling you. They had, and I'm not talking about LSU. You take Alabama, you take anybody. There's always stuff that goes on behind it. Say, Brian, if I went to your household, you come to mine with me and my wife, we had kids. I used to have kids in the house all the time, and you do now. I can guarantee it ain't perfect. It might look perfect on Sunday at church. It might look perfect in a restaurant, but sometimes it even blows up there. You go through things, and look, I'm not taking anything with Kelly or Tigers. I'm saying you go through things like this. People see stuff, they never know what goes on behind the scenes, and everybody automatically predicts, I know what's going on. BS. So let's see what happens. They're gonna ride out the year no matter what happens. And then you got a lot of hope going into next year. See what happens.
I feel like this is a strange segue over to the session on tax reform. I mean, there's similarities there to be talked about for sure. We move over from the House to the Senate, but yeah, what is supposed to happen behind the scenes sometimes spills out publicly. So there it is. It's on a tee. What can we expect this week?
Well, you know what? I'm going to throw something at you. I've been getting rumors that they're going to 0.45.
Yep.
Remember that 0.45 of a penny.
Yes.
1 cent. They're talking about raising it back up to 1 cent. They're talking about getting rid of almost every service tax that they were talking about doing. Maybe all of them, with the exception of a few, are going to be gone away. Nobody wants that. And it's talking to the legislature. Senate's going to take the 0.4, which I think came out of the House already. I may be wrong with that, but it's going to come out of the House. And when it gets to the Senate, they're going to put it back to a full penny. So I'm just concerned, and I told you before, there is no cut in government. I keep hearing you can't do it. Well, if you can't do it, we're screwed. And I'm more worried still about businesses and people winning and the government getting everything at the backside. I think that's the way it ought to be, but I'm probably the only one that thinks that way.
I don't think you're the only one that thinks that way. My difference is I still believe it can be done. I just think they're doing it backwards. You got to bottom out the budget first.
Yeah, I don't. Look, Brian, and let's go back to what we talked about when this all started. You got the session. If they get past the session, you got a constitutional amendment that has to pass.
Right.
Then you got the regular session, which is the budget session. So you got 3 gigantic things that's got to happen for anything to take place.
Yes.
I just don't want this to be a tax increase on Louisiana citizens. I just don't want that to happen. Also, one other thing that came out, Brian, and I'm checking into it now. I've got a couple phone calls. Was that they passed the bill on these tax exemptions that's going to cost chemical plants another $25 or $35 million in taxes. If that's true, and I don't have all the details, but I got several people that confirmed it last night, but I still want more details. If that's true, I'm worried about the session totally because we need to be pro-business and pro-family and pro-people. That doesn't sound like none of that. That's one of our biggest businesses here in the state of Louisiana.
Well, and that's why I feel like we're doing it backwards.
Huh?
I said that's why I feel like we're doing it backwards. All the tax credits that are out there, whether you're talking about, I don't believe ITAP's being touched, but anything else that's out there that's on the chopping block, we're looking at chopping them in order to make way for the income tax to go down. But it's like you gotta dance with the girl who brung you.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, I just don't. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm saying this. I don't think the legislature know where they're going yet. I mean that sincerely. I just don't think the legislature, and there's been so much change already. We're really, and that's why I told people, were you for, you against it? I'm not anything. I think we need a big change. I think we need to do something big. I give the governor a lot of credit for that. Yeah. But doing it right is going to be the most important thing. And I don't know what's going to come out of this yet. I really don't. But keep an eye on that sales tax. I hadn't heard that before. I got it confirmed yesterday. Mm-hmm. And but they'll do away with the service tax. And some of the people in the legislature said they'll vote for the sales tax way before they vote for service taxes.
Okay, but if they do that, though, Moon, you're going to be talking about introducing sales taxes to a number of businesses who haven't previously handled them. And then on top of that, we don't have a centralized sales tax collection established yet. So my concern is the money that's going to be off the books. My concern is the number of small businesses out there that say, we can do it for this amount, or if you're paying cash, I can do it for this amount instead.
Well, by the way, and you would be right. I was going to tell you, you hit it on the head. The centralized sales tax hurts what they're trying to do. I tell you what else hurts, and I'm going to give Jeff credit on it, because when he wanted to have a special session in August and everybody thought it was too fast, I thought it'd been a great idea to have it just to get the constitutional amendment put out there to make sure this dedication gets changed.
No, 1,000%. And Moon, I know it's going to sound like you and me are beating up on the governor because of the way this session is going, but the truth of the matter is, if we had that special session like the governor wanted, if we had that back in August, we'd be on easy street right now because it wouldn't be done backwards. What we'd be looking at right now is refilling what we need to refill with as far as credits are concerned, and streamlining the income tax where it needs to be streamlined, and everything else would be in play because we know what we know what the budget's going to look like a little more next year because you rewrite Article 7.
Well, the Senate shot that down. Maybe the Senate is saving, but the Senate shot that down. And, Brian, let me just take us back to election a 3 weeks ago. I don't remember when election. I know it's first Tuesday in the month. But so the country spoke loud and clear. Louisiana spoke even louder and clear when they voted for Trump. Mm-hmm. And one of the things they're talking about doing now is cutting back the budget, cutting money. We need to do it too. The message was sent. I saw an article today in the Devil's Advocate. Mike Johnson Coalition started budgetary gator hunt. Everybody's looking to cut, Brian. Everybody's looking to cut government down the sides because government, all they do is spend, but they don't produce. It's not a cut on government workers. It's not a cut on government workers at all. But government doesn't produce the wealth and the money and the tax base. So Louisiana could be no different. We got to do the same thing. I'm tired of hearing we can't. And that's all I've been hearing my whole life, my whole career in this. We can't. Well, if we can't, we're not. And if we're not, then we're going to always be last. It's that simple. And I just think we're better than that. I really think Louisiana is so much better than that.
So I don't know that we could do this like that, but it sounds like you're setting up towards a Department of Government Efficiency that we're seeing with the Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't think we could do that on a statewide level because of the way the Constitution's written.
Well, once again, when we have a chance to change the Constitution, we got to have legislators, step up and do it. And that seems to be the problem. Listen, I'm not a Republican. I'm a no party. If you got 2/3 in the House and Senate Republican governor, you can't get it done, we'll never get it done. And I don't want to speak like that. I think we can do it. We got to have some people with guts and vision. I say get the constitutional amendment, put everything back in the statutes, okay? Real simple. And then everybody can get cut when we need to. We're not going to cut the whole budget out. In Iowa, they either cut out 21 departments or cut 21 departments and save $300 million. It's a lot of money, Brian. It sounds like a lot of money to me. I'd like to play with it.
Right?
Hey, if you and me can split that and live on that for about 20 more years, I like the opportunity.
No, totally. I mean, give me a Christmas list.
I'd throw it on the floor of the house, and my whole family would roll in it.
It's like Scrooge McDuck. We got Moon Griffon with us for just a couple more minutes. Moon, I know the tax reform session is basically sucking all the oxygen out of the room right now. What else is going on? I mean, as far as within the state, we know what Donald Trump putting together his cabinet and whatnot. But what else is on your radar right now?
Well, I mean, you got to look at what's happening at the federal level right now, Brian, because of the change coming. What's going to be done? Remember, Trump still doesn't take office for 2 months. And you still got a government to run. You got a president of the United States that's going to do what he wants to do, executive orders and things like that. The House will switch over. Ron, I think it's January 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? 9th, 3rd, something like that.
Yep.
They'll switch over, but it's just a matter of I think everybody just stays kind of calm right now. We just move into the next administration. So that there's a lot, but then again, there's not. It's all starting to slow down now.
Yeah, getting into that time of year where I didn't know if like recess appointments were going to start coming up or whatnot.
Well, there can't be any appointments without the president, Trump, being president. So I don't know how you do a recess appointment. I guess I don't know what's going to happen. I think he's going to have to be president for that kind of recess appointment, unless Biden's going to try something like that.
No, that's what I meant. Would Biden try something on his way out?
You know what? I don't know, because I think Biden doesn't have a good name right now, and the Democrats are pretty slick, and they can pull something like that, no doubt about it. I won't even argue with you on that. But that's the kind of stuff we're watching now. Everybody's watching to see what happens.
Yep. Well, you got a show coming up in a half an hour. I always appreciate the time. We'll talk to you next Monday.
Oh, Brian, God bless. Thank you, my bud.
You too. It's 8:29 at Talk 107.3 FM. You'll catch Moon Griffon right here after our 9 o'clock news. Before we get you to news at the bottom of the hour, got to remind you about the folks over at Vex European. VexEuropean.com is the website. I want to talk to Volvo owners specifically. Vex is your outlet here. Look, I drive a 16-year-old Mercedes. Vex is my outlet. It's a European-made vehicle. It needs a lot of tender love and care. That's why I trust Vinny and his team over at Vex European. I'm paired with a technician that specializes in Mercedes. You need a technician, if you're a Volvo driver, that specializes in Volvo. And they do that. And there's another number of other makes and models of cars that they service as well. You get the full list at VexEuropean.com. By the way, same day or next day service when you sign up. Fill out that little form on the homepage at VexEuropean.com. Philip Rosetti is our featured for today. I sent you the link to his column. Headline, will the next 4 years be drill, baby, drill? You're going to call Patrick McMath. Oh, shit on me. So tired. Why does Darren Rizzi sound like Super Dave Osborne? she say the Saints are 4-9? That's hard to do in 11 weeks. Four and 7. They're 4 and 7, not 4 and 9. That's what I thought. The hell am I looking at? Whatever. Hmm. 'Time to get a look at that forecast, and here's what we've got going on. There's going to be rain tonight. As a matter of when, well, we've got a 90% chance of rain today. It's looking like it's going to start at about 6 o'clock, okay? We're going to have clouds throughout the day. Your high is not going to get above 82, 83 degrees, but the rain should start around 6 p.m. Add to it some thunder and lightning in the all the way through the overnight hours. It's going to stick with us until about 4 o'clock in the morning. So starting at about 6, ramping up percentage-wise throughout the area over the 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock hours. And then overnight tonight is just going to be it's going to be rainy all night long. That being said, your overnight low only gets down to 70 tonight. Tomorrow we top out at 82. After that, once the whole system clears out, it's going to start to cool off a good bit. Your low Tuesday night into Wednesday is 55. Your high on Wednesday is 70. Your high on Thursday and Friday, just 67 degrees. Looking all the way ahead to game day Saturday when Vanderbilt comes to town, we're going to get up to 69. Right now, skies are they're clear, clear-ish, fair skies, 73 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. .837 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. All right, let's get back inside that legislative session, that special session on tax reform. State Senator Patrick McMath joining us now. Senator McMath, how are you, sir?
Hey, Brian, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Always glad to have you on. Always glad to check back in Covington. I mean, your office is right across the street from what used to be Toogie's, so it's always nice to touch base with back home. How's the session going?
We're making progress. There's, the governor, and I gotta applaud him and Secretary Nelson and the legislative leadership. We're not competitive as a state in Louisiana.
Correct.
Okay. And you're seeing that in the numbers over the last 8 years. Everybody around us is growing at an exponential rate except us. We've been stagnant. And so we know what doing nothing looks like. And so we're again, to the governor's credit, we're trying to change that. We have to make Louisiana competitive. Has it gone exactly the way that he drew it up? No, but that's how the democratic process works. I mean, when you start to get feedback from constituents, we have to, as elected officials, take that into account. And so the plan has been tweaked and adjusted, but I think we're going to ultimately end up with lower personal income tax for everybody, which I think everybody can get behind, and a lower corporate tax. And the beauty about all this, Brian, is we've got another 2, 3, 4 years to collect data and constantly and continuously move the ball down the field in the direction to where we'll ultimately, hopefully, get to doing completely away with no personal income tax as a state. Louisiana will be one of in the top 10 in terms of competitive tax structure that will help us retain and attract more people to Louisiana and grow this state, like you're seeing in Texas and Alabama and Tennessee and North Carolina.
We got State Senator Patrick McMath on with us. Okay, so the goal being no personal income tax. I love that as a goal, but are we putting too many things on the chopping block along the way in order to, like, I hate that I keep using this phrase, this squeeze can be worth the juice.
Yes, it is. Listen, I didn't run for elected office to make the easy decisions. I ran to change some things, and I know the governor feels the same way, and the Senate President Cameron Henry and the Speaker of the House Phil DeVilliers. Look, to make a good breakfast, you gotta crack some eggs.
Yes.
And we know, and again, I'm going to keep coming back to this. We know what doing nothing looks like. And it's just not working for Louisiana and for its people. So is it worth the squeeze? Hell yeah, it is.
Okay, follow-up question then. Louisiana is built off of small business, and a lot of the small businesses, right or wrong, are built off of the credits and different ways of doing business in Louisiana that, honestly, we want to clean up, yes. But are businesses going to fall to the wayside while we get to our end goal here? Is it going to be sustainable in that interim period? Because we're trying to do big things historically, for sure, but it's that medium ground, that middle ground that can they stay afloat?
Listen, you brought up a good point. So one of the pillars of this tax package was introducing taxing new services, right? Mm-hmm. that haven't traditionally been taxed. I'm talking about lawn care, dog grooming, interior design. That is where I think this has hit the biggest snag, because Louisiana is built on small business, right? And yes. So when we start hearing from our constituents that are concerned over not necessarily the tax that they would have to charge, because that ultimately gets passed on to the client, but the administrative costs, right, of having to collect and remit and report those taxes. That can be overly burdensome to the mom and pops of the world, right?
Yes.
And I think we've been taking into account the feedback that we've gotten. That bill is still on the House side. That was supposed to be considered, I believe, on past Thursday, but I don't know if the votes were there yet. People were still uncomfortable. I don't want to speak for the House, but it's how the process is supposed to work, though, right? Like, we're getting feedback from the constituents
yes.
that have concerns, and we're taking those into account.
We got State Senator Patrick McMath on with us. Yeah, my biggest concern about the added the added services that were going to be taxed was going to be that off the books economy. That when you call to say how much does it cost to cut my lawn, that would be followed up with a question of I don't know, how are you paying?
Exactly. Yeah, you're talking about just the basic, fundamentals of operating a business, and look, that's one of the things that I really like about what we're doing here. Senator Reese has got an amendment that's being supported by President Henry that would allow us to take a step back. We know what we want to do. Let's collect the data over the next 6 months to a year. That'll really kind of help us hone in on what those numbers, what that amount would produce in terms of tax revenue, new revenue. And then we can come back at this again. Listen, I guarantee you, we will make mistakes, all right? But we can go back and we fix them,
yes,
right? But what we cannot afford to do is do nothing, because we've done that for the last 8 years. It's not working for Louisiana.
A lot more than 8 years. A lot more than this is a long time coming, to be sure. And yeah, mistakes are going to be made, but there's nothing that's not correctable along the way. And another phrase that's been overused lately, but I'm going to use it again, is we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Amen.
Got State Senator Patrick McMath on with us. All right, so the service taxes looks like that's been stalled for right now. Might come back on board a little bit. What else is in the mix here to cross the finish line?
We're going to have to address the sales tax. All right, that is the most fair, in my opinion, and in the opinion of others, way to generate revenue for the state to function. Because just to be honest, I mean, government costs money to function. It costs money to build roads. It costs money to educate, to pay teachers, to give those teachers pay raises. And I'm of the opinion that the sales tax is the best way to do that, the most fair way to do that. And so that's probably the debate that we'll be having over the next week will be what that number looks like, what percentage of sales tax that we set it at, and how much revenue that generates, and what that will then allow us to do with regards to lowering personal income tax and corporate tax to make Louisiana more competitive.
Okay, here's the good question for you, Senator McMath, is are we putting the cart before the horse on this? Yes, it costs money to run the government for sure, but at the same time, though, everybody wants to see cuts. We're putting all of the cuts to government overall. In order to get that done, you got to send Article 7 with a rewrite of Article 7 to the people in March. So we don't know if we could trim down the budget before we're making all these tax cut adjustments. So a lot of the tax cuts right now feel like more of a trade-off than a savings.
All the more reason why I'm supportive of President Henry's plan to push back the implementation of this, to see what those numbers look like when they come back. And yeah, you make a good point. There is going to be a constitutional amendment that's going to go to the people. We've got to finish up this session and present them with something that they can make a decision on, and then go and sell that decision to the people. But that's why tax policy is incredibly complicated, right? Yeah. This isn't something that we were going to fix in a 20-day special session. This is going to take years and multiple bites of the apple, but ultimately we will make Louisiana more competitive and more attractive, just like our neighbors in the Southeast.
How much of this session is proving the point that we needed a constitutional convention in the first place?
I don't, I'm not entirely on board. I don't buy that argument that you have to have a constitutional convention to change all. This is something that we could look. We're doing it in a special. We've got a fiscal session coming up here in April. Another bite at the apple. And look, what I ultimately want to do, we have to be able to multitask in the legislature, right? It's got to be tax policy, and we need to go and tackle insurance too, because we have a major crisis. And quite honestly, that's what I hear most from my constituents. And I think I'm pushing for a special in February for an insurance reform special session. But we're multitasking here. We have to juggle, right? We have to make Louisiana more affordable and more attractive, and that deals with tax policy, that deals with insurance, that deals with education. It's just it's what we do in the legislature.
Not sure how over the phone you got to look at my notes, but that was where I was going next. Was insurance. Is we're now in our third special session since the governor's been elected, and this is the third time around that insurance is considered, but kind of pushed back a little bit. What's the likelihood that we see a special session before our regular session in April?
I'm supportive of that, but I want to highlight something too. We made some pretty significant strides last session
on the homeowners front.
On the homeowners front, with regards to insurance reform.
Yes.
And that data goes back to the reinsurers, and they're seeing what Louisiana is doing and how we're making strides. And those insurance companies are starting to take a look at this market again, which they had given up on. So we've moved the ball once. I think we need a true special session to really focus and hone in on insurance, because it is the number one crisis, in my opinion, in the state.
100% agree on that front. In the meanwhile, you got some work to get to this week for sure. He is State Senator Patrick McMath from Covington. We always appreciate the time, sir.
Thanks, Brian.
Fantastic stuff from Patrick McMath. And, yeah, his home office is on Boston Street, right across the street from the Southern Hotel, which used to be the parish courthouse, and nestled inside the parish courthouse. It was the only courthouse in America that had a bar in it, and that bar was called Toogie's, and my dad used to hang out there. I was further up the street at the Boston Street pub. Nobody cares about that. Here comes your money now. Yeah, there was a bar inside the courthouse. And the tree that was in front of the courthouse, I believe, was the last tree where someone was publicly hanged in the state of Louisiana. Legal hanging, not lynching.
Right.
Yeah. Sad we have to clarify that. Oh. Ooh, damn it. Oh, man. Patrick says a current Brian Kelly buyout could purchase 1,200 new elevators on campus. As I walk past our Stephen King type service elevator with someone stuck in it. A couple things here. First of all, that's why nobody's buying out Brian Kelly. Plain and simple. But number two, you ever been stuck in an elevator before? I have. We were on vacation. We were in Galveston, Texas on vacation. And the condo we were staying at, it was only we were on the second story. Obviously the first floor is open because of storm surge and whatnot. You can't have anything down there. I know, sorry, it was 3 stories. We were up on the third story. So normally we're taking the stairs up and down, but on the last day when we were leaving, I wasn't carrying luggage all the way down the stairs. So I took all the luggage, one trip, put it all in the elevator with me, and the elevator got stuck. And I was like, just stuck. By the way, I'm going to need your help for time on this last one because my battery's out. My computer's about to die. So I got stuck. The elevator got stuck, and the manager of the property is coming by, and she had a very thick Hispanic accent. And she's like, the fire. Well, I'm not gonna do the accent. The fire department's on the way. Are you worried about running out of air? And I was like, I wasn't until now.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
and how long you were stuck?
I was stuck for about 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the fire department was all the way at the other end of the island. We were like well past the serviceable parts of the island. Yeah. So, it might have been a little less than 2.5 hours. It
probably
felt like a day.
It could have, yeah. I mean,
it felt like a day, boss.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if it was,
Yeah, no. So
freaking 20 minutes.
Yep.
20 minutes stuck in an elevator?
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time. Doesn't matter. Oof. Are you worried about
Are you worried about running out of oxygen?
Right.
Well, now I am.
Well, yeah.
What the hell,
That's
lady?
possible? Hey.
I mean, there's a fan right above me. I can see the fan
yeah.
still turning and whatnot, and the light was still on. By the way, when the fire department came out, the light got cut off inside and the fan stopped spinning. But they were rebooting the whole thing, right? They were restarting the whole thing, seeing if that was gonna get me down. And when the light went out, I'm like, shit got real. It's like the end of you ever seen Harlem Nights with Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy? No. Okay. Take small breaths.
I know where you're talking about. Oh, yeah.
Oh, not pleasant. And I mean, it's 3 floors, right? Or 2 floors to get up to the 3rd story. Yeah. So or 2 stories to get up to the 3rd floor. I knew it. I'm like, Brian, you don't have to move everything down in one load. Just carry bags down and come back up. Right, yeah. I'm like, no, but I can get it all in the elevator and do this in one fell swoop. It's
anyone would think that.
You know how when you're carrying in groceries, you put the bags all the way up your arm, like, I've got 37 bags in one trip.
I'm not making a second trip.
I'm not making a second trip.
No.
I am all that is man. I was trying to do that with the luggage.
Yeah. That was yesterday.
Renee says I would have been in total panic mode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was fine till I got that question.
Yeah. And then depending where you're stuck at. Like, yeah, if you're
in between 2 floors.
Yeah, see, that's...
I'm in between 2 floors.
1 and 2 might not be so bad. 3 or 4 or 4 and 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
However high that is.
All right, computer shut down. Hi, Musso.
Yeah, forget that.
Oh.
Oh, man, I'm freaking tired. I'm not going to make it this afternoon. Whew.
Oh, Marshall says good morning. Good morning, Marshall. $8:56 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We're almost done over here. John, you know the toughest part about a Monday show?
What's that?
It's about this time on Friday we've already eaten.
Yeah.
Like on Friday when Chicken Shack was in here.
Oh,
my goodness.
Chicken
By the way, I
Chicken.
owe some people a good butt whooping this morning because I had to leave immediately after the show on Friday to go meet with the people taking the solar panels off my roof so my roof could get done by Parrish today. Yeah. Parrish Construction and Roofing out of my house today. So when I got back, all the chicken was gone. Like all of everything except for like the juice from the mustard greens. Like everything was gone. You animals tore into the... I don't know what happened after I left,
Look,
but that was a lot of chicken.
That was a lot of chicken. But like I said, I had my
and the week before,
pieces, and I left.
And the week before, when Thomas Rock was in here from Mommy's Meat Pies,
yeah.
As soon as I got back there, I didn't even leave the building. I went upstairs for half an hour. I got back downstairs. It was like there's a couple of crumbs.
I'm gonna be honest.
I'm licking the plate.
I'm not telling on anybody, but
Bro.
I'm just saying. I'm in here. I'm editing after, and people come in. They want to know,
I
what we had.
I understand, but like
some people might say,
well,
look, nobody else can eat this. Okay, well then.
And when Mommy's Meat Pies was in here 2 weeks ago, not only did we leave out what was on the table, but I took 2 full meat pies and set them off to the side and wrapped them up in a napkin off to the other side. They were gone too.
Oh yeah,
like that should have said these belong to somebody.
Yeah, I would think so.
Man. By the way, I ordered some meat pies. I ordered 2 dozen. I gotta go see my boy Thomas.
Man, God, so good, right?
I know. Chicken Shack too.
Chicken Shack though, yeah.
Yeah. Oxtail for the win.
Oh, the chicken, the yams,
all of it, man.
Oh,
all of it.
All of
the red bean.
Yes.
Oh, we got to do the outside in. Let's roll.
Yeah. True. What are we doing?
Yeah. All right, starting off in New Orleans, 2 people were killed, 10 others were wounded in 2 separate shootings along a parade route near Almanesta Bridge in the St. Roch area at a second-line celebration that was attended by thousands. There were no immediate arrests. The shootings were less than an hour between them and half a mile apart. Heading over to Iberia Parish, a 15-year-old was arrested for murder after allegedly killing a 23-year-old on Saturday. The Jeanneret Police Department said officers found Jamal Sparrow Jr. shot to death in a vehicle on St. Charles Street, that's St. Charles and Jeanneret. Officers said they determined that the 15-year-old, who was not named, obviously because he's 15, was responsible for the death. The teenager was arrested, booked for second-degree murder, illegal possession of a gun by a juvenile, and illegal use of weapons. Next stop, West Feliciana Parish. David Opperman, a former politician from St. Francisville, went in front of the parole board after pleading guilty to 2 counts of indecency involving juveniles back in 2022. Opperman was first arrested back in 2020 for charges of carnal knowledge of a juvenile. At the time, he argued that the charges were political retaliation. He was denied parole in that meeting. Closing out in Lafayette Parish, this week's school board meeting is where a decision will be made on the final cost-cutting recommendations presented by the school system. School board announced that the meeting will begin earlier than usual because they're expecting a ton of public feedback. That meeting, I believe, is tomorrow night. That's it for us. Moon Griffon's next. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, y'all. I got my Monday morning meeting. I believe we have a Monday meeting today. I'm 90% sure we have a Monday meeting today. So I will see y'all. Toodles.